Hey everybody, wanted to make a quick video as I do my nightly drive, my exposure. Uh, it's kind of a version, by the way, of what I do that's got me about 20 times larger world than I had before starting to do all of this. But the subject of, the video I want to make today is basically and this is for those of you that are, just thinking about dipping your toes into doing some exposure therapy, some exposure response prevention for OCD, agoraphobia, panic, or really any mental disorder that you're maybe trying to fix. Here's just some some thoughts that I have and that have kind of served me along the way. I'll just get out in front of this and say that some of this, it isn't very. I'm a very, what's the word for this? I guess you could say I am into unconditional positive regard and right, those sorts of things, and being kind and compassionate to yourself. That's so important, and you should expect that from yourself. But I do think a flip side of it that gets passed over a lot in a lot of the videos that you'll see, and at least from a person with a temperament like mine, a big part of my recovery has been taking accountability and taking inventory of the way things are. So with that being said, I'll kind of put this, I guess, somewhat in a list form. So the first point of something that I had to do, and it is a really painful part of confronting anything in your life, but particularly something like a phobia or something that's kept you held back or limited, is really having to face just how bleak your situation is, right? Because the cold, hard reality is, let's take, for instance, someone with agoraphobia that hasn't left, let's say an extreme case, they haven't left their bedroom in months or years even, or decade, who knows, right? A part of fixing your problem is having to really address just how bad your situation is. And for most people, even though you consciously are thinking like, well, I'm keenly aware of my limitations today, of what I can and can't do, when you actually get up to face that, it can be kind of shattering, just to see, in plain English, how pathetic your situation is, how pathetic my situation was, objectively speaking, right? Like I can't even, drive to the grocery store to do X, Y, and Z, or do X, or all of these other things. And a big part of recovery is really just having to face how dismal your situation is. So that's one part of it. It's not really a feel-good part of it, but it's just kind of a part of the deal. Another side to it that I think has helped me, and it's easy to see how some of these things might not come across as like, well, how would acknowledging this sort of thing help you? But it actually really does. I think it's part of the responsibility of owning your life and owning the mess that it is. And by the way, your life being a mess doesn't mean that these aren't black and white things like your life is a mess, my life is a mess because totally something I did or totally something I didn't do. It's like everything else in life, I think, a blend, but I think a lot of people are very quick to give themselves a pass for their own role and, the way that their life is. Another thing I had to do and am currently doing is really take inventory of all the things that I've missed out on and lost. And, I guess people that I've hurt along the way as well. So, be it weddings, birthdays, job opportunities, what have you. Really stepping into that and feeling that the cost of your mental problem and what tolls you've had to pay due to it, I do believe is a part of the healing process. And working through that takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility. The next part of that too is basically owning your role in your suffering. I'm going to eat a mint right here. Those of you that are steeped in the ERP, this probably is somewhat of a safety behavior, but you got to do what you got to do. So, and this is kind of being a little redundant, but the third part of this video is essentially taking your own accountability for your role in your suffering, right? I did therapy several years ago, and one of the wisest things a therapist ever said to me was, it's not your responsibility for what happened to you or why you ended up like this. It's okay to share that responsibility, but it is completely yours and exclusively your responsibility to fix yourself. And that was truly one of the pivotal things that I had to chew on that for quite a while to really lean into that. But those are probably the truest words of all. I think people with phobias and anything in that OCD kind of vertical, agoraphobia vertical, there is a lot of victimhood, and rightfully so, right? Like, why did my amygdala decide to fly off the handle? Why did this happen? Did my parents do this? Did X, Y, and Z? And those all might be true, but at the end of the day, the only person that's coming to save you is yourself, period. And I can say pretty confidently, I think about everybody universally has to come to that point to fix their lives. And that really is beyond the scope of even a mental issue. That's anything, addiction, right? No amount of self-love, no amount of finger pointing or anything is going to compensate for the fact that you and you alone are who has to pick up the pieces here. Now, something I guess a little lighter on that is the first three were kind of a little clobbering, probably not the most feel-good things if that's what you're looking for. But the fourth part of it is forgiving yourself. Literally, you have to forgive yourself. In the same way that only you can take responsibility and fix your life, the only person that you really need forgiveness from is yourself. Doesn't matter how much you screwed up, what your intentions were, or what they weren't. You have to let it go. You have to shed it. You have to understand where your life's at, where you want it to go. And really, that, I guess this is the self-love part of things. Say, it doesn't matter what happened. I need to pick myself up off the mat and keep going forward. And regardless of if that's, telephone pole by telephone pole, literally, as you see me driving by them, which, by the way, this part right here, this would have been unfathomable to drive to in my world, several months ago. This would have been like unbelievable. But forgive yourself. I won't overcomplicate that one. It's extremely important. But only forgive yourself if you can acknowledge your own role in everything, right? That I really think it's kind of 4 on my list of what I'm talking about. But because realistically, the other parts are a prerequisite to getting to that point. Own your part in it, and then forgive yourself. And I guess I'll kind of wrap this up with the fifth part, since there's been kind of an overarching theme of accountability and so on and so forth, and the self-love. And, a lot of this might come across as being, maybe too much of the inner critic, or too much of a harsh person to yourself. But sometimes self-love is being honest with yourself, right? Self-love isn't always, you did great, I'm going to go home and eat some popcorn, and whatever comfort behavior is your flavor. I have lots of them. And sure, maybe there's a time and place for that, but if you're really serious about getting your life together, self-love is holding yourself accountable, is looking for every way that you yourself can move the dial forward. And I won't dilute that down too much either. But I guess I'll cut this kind of off here. I don't think there's a point to meander, but in summary, it is a lot of the tropes that you hear, and at least that's what served me, right? I don't consider myself a guru. I'm not fully recovered. I'm well on my way to recovery and well beyond where I was months ago, years ago. And I can tell you, when I made that shift to thinking in those terms, that was a massive thing for me. And that alone, maybe not that alone, but that in and of itself on its face has propelled me to keep moving forward. I can tell you right now, if you watch one of my last videos, like, that it's not a linear timeline. Where I'm at right now in my exposure, I'm probably, let's call it 17 minutes from home. I'm feeling a little anxiety right now. But that's okay, right? I've been further than this, by the way, too. So this is just, we'll call it like an A-B split. I'm on a B day, meaning, it's just tougher. But it's a day like today that self-love comes into the picture, and I got to love myself enough to face this and hold myself accountable to this exposure. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off for the night. I hope all of you that have subscribed and watched are getting something out of these videos, and I truly, from the bottom of my heart, am thinking about every single one of you that's commented and praying for you, and not only wishing that you will get better, but knowing that you will. You can handle this. You've got this. And I say that, by the way, right now in like a fairly compromised state, right? Hey, here's the anxiety for you guys. I'm driving over a bridge right now, over a freeway. So I'm feeling a little bit, but we got this. All right, everybody, take it easy.